So welcome everyone. This is Kelly Nazat for Soullab, and we're taking a deep dive. We're here with Kathrin Wyss. And last week we had a really awesome discussion. We had a podcast interview, our second one for Soullab, and it was really extraordinary, especially after going from the fire to the water. We got into some interesting things. And as you get to know Kathrin, if you've heard the initial audio, you'll know that she really stacks up in all of the elements. So we really could have her on for any of these aspects. But for the water realm, I think you'll quickly understand why it is that I chose her for the water realm, and how beautiful she exemplifies all the elements being served through a deepening of our experience of the water realm. So thank you, Kathrin, for being willing to reappear in this deep dive.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to see where we are diving into, honestly.
Yeah, so we haven't said much in terms of, even though Kathrin knows well the Soullab process, we haven't really discussed what we're going into today, so that'll keep it nice and interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So one of the first things I'd like to do is, in the last one, we talked about at the end, but I would like to talk about in the beginning, your book. You know, when I read, there it is, Dare to Trust. Look how beautiful. The duck with the feet in the air and the head down into the water. Yeah. Absolutely perfect for this water air sort of dichotomy between mind and emotions. What a distinction. And, you know, as I was reading it, Kathrin, it reminded me of the boldness and the rawness of Jung's Red Book, which is, you know, his gift to humanity not many years ago, long after his death. We receive this dialogue with the other realms. And in it, he was, unlike his typical self, very restrained in some sense, of very collegial, very professional in the way that he spoke of the other realms and the spirit guides and the rest. In most of his work, he had to adapt to the culture, the Victorian age, and really place his work within the realm between academic and clinical psychology, psychiatry, but also in the realm that he understood very well, which is that shamanic, Gnostic realm of direct access and unfiltered review and discussion with those that are communicating with us. Not to bastardize or explain or analyze, but simply to reveal what they're saying. So I found that in your book. And so if you wouldn't mind just giving to those listening, those watching, a little bit of an insight into what compelled you to write the book and what was your hope for that? Nothing big to start off with.
No, not at all. And specifically, what compelled you is difficult to answer. If I would place myself in a receiving position, I would say I was tasked with writing the book by the spirits. And I got an inclination in August 16 that I will write a book in February 17. And I was like, no, that will not going to happen because February 17th, I'm fully booked with clients. No way to write a book. Universe manifested itself that all those tentative arrangements have been released from the client, so nothing happened, which was that I was free in February 17th to write a book. That's how the universe manifests. And then I thought, like, yeah, you know, I will write a book, me, on business shamanism, on concepts. And spirits were like, yeah, let's see what this book will be all about. So I geared up with the task of writing the book because I felt that's what needs to be done. And I opened myself to the process of intuitive writing and let it flow and let it go. And the main practice to be able to write that book / receive the book was going into the state of a calm heart and empty mind, into the position of not knowing, and let it flow. And not having one single critic stop the flow. So when the book came, and I say came because parts of it are messages from around 12 different spirits regarding how they perceive things, Archangel Michael explaining how to get in contact with the spirits, really making it clear that anyone can do it if they want to. Very, very deep message of empowering, of being your true self. It's tremendous, the love that came through. And then the other part was, here you have to say this about your life, here you have to say that about your life, and this will be explaining on how you get there, which was kind of like broadcasting my dark nights of the soul and making them public. Wow. And both aspects of the book have been major struggles for me to come in between receiving it and having the manuscript towards publishing it. But obviously I did go the way, but it was to come to an agreement with myself why this book is incremental and what makes it important was a major task and struggle.
Where are you at with it now? It's been, what, maybe a year?
Yeah. I honestly realized that, I made the commitment to myself, if Spirit and I have been working in such a beautiful partnership to make that book happen and me dedicating the time, it's only worthwhile for myself to publish it, to show off in a way that I stay to my dedication part, to show off not in a sense of broadcasting, but kind of manifesting it through to close the cycle. And then it was a very, very humbling experience to receive feedback from the first readers, because not a lot of people have read it before it got published. Mm-hmm. And the more feedback I get on how the reader is receiving it, either parts of my story or parts of the advice from the spirits, that really encourages me to stay to that truth that the book is giving. And every day the title in itself is a mantra to keep on going.
It's a beautiful title.
Yeah.
So how does that fit in if we're looking at the medicine wheel and we look at the spiral? In the first phase of fire, we look at this heroine awakening, this taking this new step in life at this time in your life. How does that fit into where you are now? I know you're developing the Biz Shaman a program, which is a derivative of what you've already been doing, taking in more of the shamanic sensibilities and integrating them. And also you've written this beautiful book, and you have moved to the West Coast. How do you see where you are now and that inner fire? What is that at this point, and how does this watery exposition fit in?
The watery exposition fits in that it tames down a little bit the eagerness. in a sense that there is always a moment of breathing behind every idea and behind every jumping in. I'm full of ideas, and I have like 10 other books that are waiting to be written under the topic of Dare To, where spirits are going align with the wisdom of the 21st century.
Wow.
And when I look at the fire realm, I guess I'm very much into in the shift from fire 1 to fire 2 with the business shaman and establishing the business here in California and making the partnerships and whatever. And sometimes it's really hard to go into the earth realm of then getting everything organized, even though I'm very good in organizing, especially for others.
Yes, very good. Thank God.
Because there's so much ongoing, and because I'm taking care so much of the spiritual realm, because spirits have been very clear to be able to do the work with the approach, I shall dedicate 2 hours a day into this contemplative, sensing, holding, not knowing state, to be in exchange with them. I'm in need of prioritization. And that's the very moment where I am. Yeah. In between the ideas and all the feeling, but what out of that gets into the third, into the earth, to start organizing.
So there's this right brain, left brain sort of how to be with the fire and water, and also to give space to the earth and air to ground these visions and insights and essentialize them.
Especially, yes, for my businesses, because the earth and air is a lot on what I do for the clients I have. So it seems that there is a balance overall in my life. It's just not within my own business.
Isn't that the way? It's heal or heal thyself sort of mantra, right?
Yeah.
That we're all blessed with that humbling realization that it's most important that we do our own work. Yeah. So where are you now with this? Your book's out, and you've given birth to this, and now you're developing this new program. I know you're working with Robert Dilts, is the way you and I met with the generative leadership training in Santa Cruz, which was life-changing for many reasons. His work is phenomenal, and it certainly fits well within the Soullab model. His program exemplifies in many ways what we would hope that others could find their way to and we could promote. And you're one of his, you're a facilitator, and you work with him in terms of partnering in other areas, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. So you have that coming up in August, which is right around the corner. Yeah. While you're building your private practice. So you're a busy lady. I'm assuming that's a chronic condition for you, but you seem, there's this essence of the book that says, no, I've been a busy lady and I've been a very busy person. And this time I'm going to do it not so fiery, but this time I'm going to do it with true balance.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I am busy. In a sense, way differently than before, because before I was running for other people's well-being and I was running for other people's welfare. And I didn't have my North guiding star anymore. I'm not sure if I mentioned it in the book, but at the age of 10, I decided to be a pharmacist. At the age of 25, I was one. And in between 25 and 35, I didn't have a Northern guiding star. I just did whatever my nose and my brain said, interesting, let's sneak into that, let's do it. It was not in a strategic mode. It was not aligned with anything that sourced me and nourished me in happiness. And that was the dramatic change that I have done in 2003. And then again in 2007, was really focusing on not only what interests me, but not only what I can do, but absolutely what I want to do and where my passion is. So I really follow, and this passion, and I guess this is what you're also referring to in the models that Robert Dilts from the Dilts Strategy Group is emphasizing in the success factor modeling, is always start from your passion. What are you passionate about? And then find ways how that passion can find expressions in the vision. What is it that you want to have seen in the world? And for me, it is definitely bringing shamanism, like it is for you, to the 21st century, bringing shamanism out of a native context into, for me, business context, for you into a self-development and structural approach of having that meta frame. So I'm busy with everything that goes around my own passion and with the vision. I'm a healer. I cannot deny it. It's the ingrain of my being. And I want to support healers in getting the best out of their business world as well. So that's where the two of us map.
Yes.
And in that sense, I have a lot of different things to do. But when I look on the calendar days or the hours that I work with clients towards the hours that I'm working not with clients, that's the main balance that I integrated in my life. And yes, I do consider the 2 hours where I meditate, where I receive, I claim them as work. That's not leisure time. In my idea, that's work, because it is needed to do the work with clients that I aspire to.
I like that. It's very learning in the Taoist and the Tibetan traditions, their shamanic work. The dream time itself is an opportunity to develop. They say, well, you spent 24 years of your life sleeping. Why not do some good work while you're there? So there is this notion that it's a very matured understanding of journeying and meditation. It's not for escapism or transcendentalism for its own sake, but it's really an integral part of our development and our onward process in this plane of existence.
If I would go very provocative, I could say the spirits are my collaborators.
I hope so.
You know, that's kind of like the company that I create, that I have, that I'm an employee as well. So they are my peers, they are my bosses, or they are my they are people that are reporting to me, and building relationship and spending time to understand, cultivate the communication, getting feedback mechanism, all those things that a leader needs to do with real life, in a real life setting, needs to be done. And you know that very well, Kelly, with our spiritual allies, with the invisible collaborators that you have. So yes, it took me some time until I was able to claim it that way. And also spending and not neglecting it and kind of like, oh, I do it very early, or I do it on the weekends, or I do it late night, because that's not honoring the collaboration that the spirits are doing with us. It's a professional partnering relationship. We are neither in the receiving end, nor are we in the demanding end. We are in a partnership.
Beautiful said. Love that. And there is this salve there, right? I mean, we, in our training in clinical psychology or in any of the counseling professions, we are taught these left brain air and earth type things. Analyze, deduce, and formalize some form of accounting in terms of diagnoses, and then go through the checklist of what are the prescribed diagnostic measures that we would follow through, and then follow through them, check back. There's this very earth and air type thing, which is important, as you know, as a pharmacist, my God, it's like the most refined form of medicine woman. But without the right side of the mind, and used in the metaphor, of course, without the fiery, intuitive, and without the depth of the watery, emotional, we're missing an extraordinary amount of inductive wisdom. We are relying solely on deductive processes. And in my work early on, my teacher, Luwada, says to me, the first thing you do when you sit with a client is to say to yourself silently and reverently, you don't have a clue. I don't have a clue, rather, what's going on here. But if I can be present enough, and if I can be witness enough and hold space for the wisdom of the elders and the wisdom of the guides and the wisdom before me, what needs to come through will come through. And so this has been well over 30 years for me, and I can't imagine doing this work without that. It's so extraordinarily, overwhelmingly difficult to analyze your way through this world.
Yeah, and I just was yesterday reflecting on the practice, on how do I do healings when I'm merged with the spirit, not just channel it, not just contact and ask for counseling, but being merged. And I was looking at it from an analytical perspective, kind of like step by step approach. And I was really astonished that when the spirit is embodied, it just witnesses for seconds by breathing and getting the whole person that is in front of you, or the whole universe that is in front of you, if I look at a team or whatever. And then there is an instant clarity of knowing. There is no concept. There is no, oh, I need to apply this model. They just go. And when you retrospectively, you can kind of like put every model and say, yeah, they have been doing this and this and this. And but in that very moment of doing, it is so immersed into it. And what it is mostly as a guiding factor is this unconditional love that comes from the heart space. And that so much overrides, at least for me, every concept of knowing that I have in my brain, that I'm so grateful that the presence of the spirits is so vast that I have no chance to think, but just be the hollow bone. It's a gift.
It is a gift. It really brings up the power of intuition and the emotional intelligence. And I liken it to, the next phase of water that we drop into. Right now in the course, we're doing the middle, the scorpionic, the realm of the shamanic undoing initiation, and the place where old ways drown and new ways are reborn. And that we see as a gauntlet that we need to pass through, that the water realm offers for us to mature through our shadows, to transform our shadows, so that we can enter into, drop in this Neptunian, Piscean, in the language of astrology, dropping into this deep other worlds. And in that place, I look at people like Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist, talking about flow. Mm-hmm. And he says, what is it about these great athletes, musicians, mathematicians, physicists, that when they are in that space of extraordinary performance, what is it that they experience? What is this state of flow? Mm-hmm. And to a high degree, and what he notes is that there is a sense of releasing into something greater than, that they are doing the part, but something supersedes them, they are the hollow bone. And there is this real dichotomy there, in a certain odd sense, that yes, a fine musician can drop into that state. I would say in the flamenco guitarist, they would say that's entering into that state of duende, where all of a sudden everything becomes one dance. And self and other dissolves into this where you become the dance, right? And there, but to be able to do it well is also to do the didactic, the study, the learning how to play chopsticks, the learning how to dribble a ball, or learning how to run a ceremony, or how to all these steps of the novice lead to this step, this phase of entering into a deeper state of flow. And I think that's one of the great challenge with those that are interested in going more into the shamanic route in our modern world. They might either think that it's a savant gift that some of us possess, or they may think that it's beyond their capacity to learn. And much of what I work with and teach is that, like anything else, if you do have an interest in that, a drive towards that, to dive into that, there is a sacrifice of self, in a sense of you must commit to the learning. You must commit to the undoing of old beliefs and old ways of knowing to have some experience.
Yeah, I like being Swiss. I like to say everyone can play tennis, but if you want to be a Roger Federer of the world, guess what? It needs dedication, and I so much can agree with what you said. In the moment of flow, you forget concepts. You forget all those questions of if things happen, why things happen, how things happen, what happens. You just do it. And yet in preparation for those modes, those key questions shall be addressed. So to have this ability to surrender to your artistry and let the artistry being the expression, find the expression through you in any craft, in anything that you do, is knowing why you are doing it and why you want to have it. And when you have this clarity of the answer to why, there is nothing that restrains you anymore, because you're free, willing to give, because it's what you want and you have the answer for your why. Up until you have the answer for the why, it might sound you're in the midst of the ocean, if we use the water, and there is a big storm and you're in the midst of it and you're saying, why the heck have I done that? And I write it in the book. There have been times, especially going into releasing beliefs and which has to do with for me, it had to do with giving up some personality aspects that have been formed itself as a persona. So I buried some personas. Give up a safety net that you have so successfully established for years through the way of socialization, which secured you a life. But you cannot jump to another land when you hold on to your house and your businesses and whatever that you are. Yes, you can look out of the window, you can open the window, but that not yet let you experience the forest outside. You actually have to go out of the house into the forest. But if you go with your duvet, if you go with your kitchen cup, you will not have the full experience. So you have to go as deliberate as possible. Wow. With at least take on what you have, and that makes us so vulnerable. And that's the water element, going from the big idea, yes, which is still within the house, going out of the door and experience it, and that's the water. Then you cross, let's say, that forest, and you say like, oh, I was having that beautiful idea from the fire, I was having the beautiful experience from walking through the water in the forest, and now I look back and say, what is it that I can do with that experience, and how can I make that kind of like lasting and not just being an experience in itself, and how can I utilize the experience to bring it back into my life? That's when you enter into the earth and start to structure and manifest so that other people can learn from it. And other people can benefit from your experience of the wonderful vision you have with the daring to jump into the water and letting yourself being taught by the surrendering. And while you're doing that, you will not be able to see, oh, I will do this with it, or will do that with it. You actually need to go 100% in, and then retrospectively you can make learnings out of it. At least that was my experience.
Well, there is that willingness in the shamanic initiations, as you know, and both the fire realm of jumping into the fire, burning away all of the not real aspects of our generous nature and the alchemy of that. But there's also the washing away. And it very much fits in with this Joseph Campbell's hero's myth, where at the top is this fiery Icarus character filled with this fiery vision of what they're going to be. And this fire within them knows very well that they're an impure vessel. But as they are compelled to go out into the woods, out into the world to express that, all of the not so real things are burned away naturally by the world around us. And that then there's this arcing movement out into the world that I see in this sort of mandalic movement that then drops into the water of emotional nurturing and back to self and awareness. Oh my God, what is all that fiery stuff about? Why have I been doing all, this ego proving and learning and evolving spiritually? It gets deeper and it says, what's underneath that? And we drop into this watery realm of, oh my God, this is what's inside of me. This is what's really wanting to be freed, that wants to be repossessed, wants to be released and redeemed in some sense, so that we can get to that deep Gaian connection, that wisdom that reminds us of our gold, that elixir that we hold. And, as you say, Campbell says as well, there is this need to move out into the world to have this big quest in the outer and inner worlds, but ultimately is to come to this inner elixir that then is a seed for a new way, for a new gift to the world in the earth realm that's going to germinate and come out into the air. In that place, Kathrin, what is, if you were to look at the first phase of water, the first phase of earth, and the gift that you see of all the fiery creativity and the watery inner knowing and beliefs and visions inside of you, how does all that come together at this time in your life, being both shaman and facilitator and an incredible, as I'm well aware, an incredible supporter and strategist and all around consultant? How does it all come together for you?
For me, it comes together with neglecting neither side, with manifesting the bridge, and with having a strong leg in the consultancy and in the structure and in the facilitating and in the beautiful mind of being able to see strategies, and then in really infusing everything with that watery and with the purpose drivenness, with always going back to what is it that wants to find its expression, which is the fire, and how does it nurture you and nurture the world. And for instance, in the preparation for the training course that you're which I'm very much looking forward to, which is about generative consultancy, certification for generative consultancy. I'm preparing at the moment spiritually the meeting place. Since a few days, I'm talking with the spirits of the university, of the college where it will be, to welcome us and explaining what we want to achieve and how we will run. And I know the field of participants, and I'm sending good vibrations and thoughts for a safe travel for everyone, because some of the people start traveling as of mid of this week, coming from mostly all the continents. So that's the ultimate part. So I'm not only preparing the agenda and what needs to be in the meeting room and how do we video stream and what's the strategy for marketing, but also preparing the field from this nurturing field and holding the space for the learning of the heart and not only the space of the mind. So I see myself, maybe never saw it that way, but building the holder for the space of the learning of the heart.
To be able to bring in that wisdom of scrying or visioning into the future as a vital tool into integrating into all that you're doing in a very didactic and a very technological way. I think that's, many of those that I'm assuming, but many that come to Soullab and are interested in a more holistic, integral, generative way of approaching their practice, whatever that is. They're looking for, how do these come together? Maybe there's this sort of polar shift or this swinging back and forth between being very kind of cognitive and very shamanic or very intuitive. And, I think a lot of this, what I'm starting to see is a process that is teachable, is that all of this developing the interstitial and the weaving of together really are teachable skills of those of us that are using them in our practice. For instance, I love going into trance. I love going into, deep states of journey work. I love it. But I work with clients pretty much daily, and the trance state is integrated into the space we're in. There is no tapping out and going into a deep state of somatic trance that I have to leave the space, come back. It's all brought into the space, and for me, that all the guides and all the information and all the medicine is available in that moment. And for me, over the past 30 years, that's been the integration for me, is how do I weave them all together so that they're in service to the client's needs, to that earthy medicine, that helping them to organize their experience and then bring it out into the world. This is a very practical enterprise.
Yes, it is a conscious decision. It's not just an assumption or they will be there, but it's a practice, it's a ritual. And I guess one of the key things when you move from fire and water into earth is then the implementation of rituals. And in a sense of this conscious knowing. And having been a very airy person by decision and allowing water to teach that much, needed a lot of appreciation back why air is also useful, because there is at one time in the development, it's kind of like easy to say, apua, that's the old stuff, hapa.
You're in your head. Yeah.
And then you start to exclude. But the only way, and this is what I love in the spiragic model, the only way is to master at the very end all 12 to various degrees. The learnings are to various degrees in each of the models. That's what I love about the survey that soon will be available for everyone to take a look at. I've taken
Very
it now
exciting.
2 to 3 times already. And the main message is the same, but it also depends a little bit on the day, to what degree the strengths and the shadows are showing up.
Isn't that wonderful how it does that? The realization that we are, in essence, an ongoing process, and that we're not a static state, or a trait, we're a state. Yeah. We're a state of being that's in flux.
Yeah. And this consciousness, this conscious awareness about the 12 stage, or about the 4 elements, or about the bridge in between logic and intuition, it's just every day just checking in. Do I master both worlds equally today? Or am I focused in one or another? Or if you're in the midst of interaction and you got the sense like, am I giving the best I can give here? See, for me, am I am I rooted in both practices at the moment or just in one? And I know now that I only can bring my biggest gift that I'm able to share when I'm fully rooted, equally rooted in both. That's my practice, that's my commitment. And it's also not that easy because each world needs so different resources.
They really do.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that we've had mandalas and medicine wheels exemplifying the path of spiritual, psychospiritual development throughout the ages. And, you know, we looked at Sadhguru's wonderful talk about the four yogis and the yogi of the mind, the yogi of the spirit, the energy body, the yogi of the physical body, and the yogi of the emotions. And he says they're all very different, of course, and they get along. So they're walking through the forest together, and all of a sudden it was a terrible storm. And so the yogi of the body, being very embodied, he knew exactly the terrain. So he said, well, let's go to this temple nearby. It was all dilapidated and no walls or anything. But they huddled up in the middle around this deity, not because they were in love with the deity, but just to get out of this horrible storm. And in the midst of this heavy storm, God appears, right? And they're all looking and they're thinking the same thing. Why, God? Why now? In the middle of a rainstorm, do you come? I put my whole life into my thinking or my emotions or in my physical being or my spiritual energetic awareness, and you haven't appeared once, but now you appear? You know, and of course the punchline was, well, it took this long to get you four idiots together.
Yes, exactly.
Isn't it? It's just a fun cartoon. If you haven't seen it, it's called The Four Yogis. And I wonder, as I navigate through this, and as my guides gave this to me in graduate school in clinical psychology, of all places, they said that all this undoing is challenging and a dark night of the soul as it will be on many levels recursively, that there was a promise that there was a way to navigate the chaos of an exponentially quickening world and complex world, that there was a way to navigate through a world that was quickly dissolving from those old Saturnian ways of fixity, you know, that something new was coming through. And for us, those of us that tend to ride those interstitial places between worlds, that there was a way to navigate. And that the spiraling, you know, Carl Jung said the process of individuation is not a linear process. It's a circular movement. And he said more correctly, it's a spiral, because we're always moving back to the place of the fifth element, the ether or the spiritual soul self. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at that and when I see the spiraling in, I notice more and more as I go through this work well over 30 years now, is that it doesn't need to be as fiery anymore. It doesn't need to be as watery. It doesn't need to be as heavy and earthy or as you know, lofty and airy as it once was, where I can truly just hold a moment for them, hold each of these aspects on my altar, and just to be present with them on a deep intuitive level. There seems to be something registering or integrating.
Yes, and we talked about that, recognizing that you're not just doing that spiral once. Kind of like sometimes I think like I have like 3 spirals going on at the same time based on the different models.
Yeah.
What I do love though is to really have the embodied the heart, mind, and soul experience of pure fire, and have the heart, mind, and soul experience of pure water, and have the heart, mind, and soul experience of earth as well as for air. because that helps to get the clarity in knowing where you are when you are within one of those. And that helps you, in my experience, to see what resource from the other field might help you. And that's what I love about the model on saying everything has its utilities, everything has its shadows. You know, yes, you said you can be too fiery. And then you can see what element of water will help me in my enthusiasm state, what element of air will help me in my enthusiasm state of fire, what element of air. And for water, that's for me always the key challenge, to put myself and see, because I'm very strong in all the others as well, to see how can I fuse water in everything that I do. That's kind of like my daily mantra next to Dare to Trust, which is the allowing. The trusting is the allowing, and it's not holding, and it's not analyzing, and it's not making, and it's not doing, and it's not escaping with ideas. It's the allowing to be in the moment. And that's the word trust, which is only something that basically you cannot measure, even though I'm licensed in a trust indicator for teams, which is good because you can model expectations in between members. But I don't know why I came to that conclusion, but I felt it was important to say.
I like that. And you know, this idea of trust is the growing up, isn't it? The true, I read when I was younger, when I first started getting into, it was in high school, I started studying the alchemical texts and the Gnostic texts and reading people like Hermann Hesse that were very strong proponents of this connection with the esoteric and mystical realms in a Western environment. And there's this notion that came through mostly from the Eastern traditions, and for obvious reason when you hear it, but the notion is one of the key indicators and the key positions for those wanting to reach this level of wisdom is humility. Mm-hmm. And as we go through this work, you know, I see that this work, I've known it for a long time. I've always said, they said, well, you have such tenacity and devotion to this path. And I said, well, honestly, it has me more than I have it. And when the work is good, I am, at best, a conduit for it. In its truest sense, that what comes through as I'm experiencing it as well is astounding when I'm truly in that place. And I do believe that this is the gift of the water realm, to really let go and to say trust that there's something bigger coming through. I would start all of my workshops. I would, you know, the earthly side says, get it all organized very well so that you address everything you want to do. And boy, was that burdensome for everyone else. Not so much for myself, because, you know, I'm a geek with this stuff, but my guide's admonition to me before beginning each one of us says, I'm glad you did that because you probably feel better. But when we step out there, when you go out there into this, let all that go. Let it go and just be present. And, you know, I think Carl Jung said the same. Learn all the mythology you can learn because that's the structure of the psyche. But when you're with another, simply be present and let all of that go, and you will be guided by all that you've learned. But beyond that, you will be guided by those that are surrounding us, supporting us, that will take what they know that we know and help us move onward.
You know, maybe, and you already talked about it, a lot of people that may be hearing and saying like, yeah, but let them talk, you know, I'm not gifted. And I just want to re-emphasize, you don't need to be gifted. The point is you need to be still enough to be able to hear. And that's work. And I'm so thankful for all this mindfulness practice that has already entered really deep into the corporate world. At least here in California, you simply cannot say, I'm not doing meditations, kind of like would be kind of like, whoa, you're not in the crowd here. And coming to that inner calmness. And the inner calmness has to do with understanding your monkey mind, but not only understanding your monkey mind, but also appreciating your monkey mind. Because one key thing is you should not oppress or suppress anything. You have to allow and then also to manage. And for a lot of the things that I do when I'm meditating, I talk to my mind and say, not now, come later, I'm meditating now. And sometimes when I'm doing something else and spirits are coming and I said, not now, I'm busy with other things. You know, going into a deep spiritual interaction while driving 70 miles on a highway is not the best thing to do. Also not listening to that podcast while driving a lot, because it gets you into another world, you know, the world of water, which absorbs, which flows, is a beautiful dance of, like in a tango, where you get inspired by the music, then you start a movement, and yet you are always in control. You are never giving the stick, the wheel, your body away. Even in channeling, even when the spirits are coming through and you're hollow bone, you have the mechanism of regulation. And because you have trained, because you have experienced, because you have practiced, because you have all those theories, you feel at ease of letting go, because you know that if it's too much, if it gets into, this might not be appropriate, this might be awkward, I lose my sight, I lose my face, then you can intervene. But I also know that if we are talking about the compassionate spirits that we are working with, that's just a basic assignment of my limiting belief. It's their compassionate spirits that have the best for everyone of the system involved. You can let go. You can dive into the water.
And trust. You can trust because you have established the discernment and you have established the structure, the earth side, and also you have engaged the air side, the ability to relate and communicate mindfully and with your whole being. And you also have the fire to intuitively connect and the water to emotionally tap into all of that you can trust that process. And that is, I think, so let me maybe put you on the spot a little bit, because I know, again, we haven't discussed this, but I would love it if you were, in this last part, we're just at an hour now, which is, for me, is a brief moment in such a topic. But could you offer, or even if it were to talk about, but maybe directly offer some tool that maybe you use in your private practice that would help those listening or those watching to be able to tap into that watery, since we're devoted at this point to the water realm? Is there something that you can offer, a gift of sort, or maybe a guided visualization, or whatever you would want to those listening, that would help them understand that feeling of being immersed?
Yeah. So,
good.
Those who
Thank
are
you.
visually seeing, it goes into being upright, having the beauty of feeling that you're upright and that your spine can hold, and that the head is neither heavy towards the front or your neck is stretched towards the back, is something that allows you to have a better breath. And something that I just learned last week is a visualization of of breathing up and down, like in a tree trunk. So don't breathe into your belly. Don't breathe into your shoulders or breathe into your sternum. Just breathe up and down with your breath. And especially when it comes to the water realm, the out breath is a little bit more focused than the in breath, because the out breath allows you to release the emotions. To breathe in, it's like the air realm or the fire realm, and then breathing out is releasing, but it also enters you in the earth of your body. And while you are doing that, you may want physically or mentally place one of your hands towards the space of your heart. And just say thank you that you're able to feel the beat of your heart, as subtle or as strong as you are able to sense it. And you may touch your body when you're touching it with the hand physically, or as I just do, I start to move from my physical body more into the emotional body, energetic body, but stay with the heart. And just welcome the beauty of the heart that is your source of life, with this unconditional support that the heart, the physical heart, is giving you. And now it's up to you to decide if you want to dive in a positive emotional experience or in an emotional experience that was more difficult. And thank your heart that you are able to feel that. Kind of like the emotions that the heart is allowing you to experience. And just realize how the heart, when you're doing that, expands even more. And breathing in and out. And what you now can do, instead of breathing up and down, you can breathe into your heart. It's kind of like a mental image that you breathe into your heart. And like that, synchronize your heartbeat with the amplitude of your breath. And the calmer you breathe, you will realize that you're sinking deeper into the calmness of the heart. And if you would check your mind, you will notice that the mind gets calmer too, because you focus on the gifts of the heart. And from that very place of calmness, I most of the time go further and invoke a wish or commitment. How I want to serve that heart, that emotion, best moving forward. What nourishes the heart and myself best in that connection. You may or may not want to do that yourself as well. Where we are at the very moment is also the state of where I usually start calling into spirits. I'm not doing that now, but that will be the moment to do so. And it's a moment to come into deep rest. I could go on now meditating for like 1 or 2 hours, but we're not going to do that now. So to close that exercise, say thank you to your heart on an energetical level. Go back to the sensation of sensing the heartbeat. Say thank you to your physical heart for being such a great support and access point. And take like 2, 3 conscious breaths and start moving your shoulders. That's always the best, starting rotating shoulders and arms so that you start feeling coming fully back, noticing how upright you're sitting. And how the world is still the same and yet different from such a calm place of your heart now. Moving on into your day, whatever you have planned, endeavored, and wished, knowing that this resource of your heart, physically and emotionally, is just a few breaths away.
Thank you. Just maybe 10 minutes, and what a shift. Kathrin, thank you for being willing to reveal yourself in this way, as you have in your book, Dare to Trust, and in your work. Your work with me so far has been transformative and a real gift for Soullab as we move towards giving birth to Soullab. It's such a joy, and I know it's the guides have brought us together, and I'm very, very excited. The main reason for Soullab is to share that love and that enjoyment with others, and to support each other in this coming together and this awakening that we all see that we're the ones that are here to transform the world, that we're a part, are agents in a sense, and each bringing something unique and beautiful, and honoring that and holding space for that and developing that into true medicine that can be brought, elixir that can be brought out into the world. And in that way, just as we are in need of spiritual and emotional support, we're in need of earth support, of organizing and development and relating and bringing it out into the world. So those like yourself, which are growing, that do have that integral balance between them all, I see you as a real gift to the world. And I invite all of those who are listening and watching, who are developing something important in the world. If you need support, give Kathrin, contact Kathrin, because at the very least, she will give you some guidance and direction and movement forward. And I mean that in the most sincere way. I wholeheartedly endorse who she is and what medicine she brings to the world. And in that way, Kathrin, would you remind everyone, we will attach your information, but for those listening, if you want to know how to get in touch with Kathrin, please give us a sense of how to contact you.
It seems the more you talk about it, the darker I get, because the sunlight changed so dramatically.
I know, isn't that great? It's like, wow, very dramatic.
Ooh,
there
yeah.
it is.
So I don't know. I have to move my face a little bit to tweak. So, yeah, my website, Beachtig or Beachdig in English .com, or then the BIZ, B-I-Z, shaman.com are giving the contact information. They're working really well. The best is always emails, because I travel across timelines, and I don't like, sometimes I forget to get my phone on silent and then busts in the middle of the night. But generally it would be office@beachtig.com. That's the best email to reach me. And as you said, I'm very happy to listen to the strategy. You know, sometimes I can feel into the concept, and I also, with the support of the spirits, can be very candid about saying what's the missing element, you know. And then it always is simpler to find, where do I have to redefine myself? It was with the two of us meeting, I don't need to tell you anything on fire and water, but I can shoot my complementary skills in water, in earth and in air into the partnership. But it is important to understand those others as well, so that we can swing together to make it even better. And that's my approach. And that's the approach of generative consultancy. That's the approach of conscious leadership and generative consultancy and collaboration. And that's our mantra, how we move forward. And it's always fun to do it together.
Oh my God, it's so much fun. And it really is so enchanting to be, it's one thing to have a fiery vision. It's another to have this deep connection. It's really the bringing the elixir back. The second part of bringing the elixir back to your people, to your world, is really a gauntlet like no other. And for those of us who are very fiery and watery, very shamanic, very and empathic, it could be more daunting to bring the elixir into the world than it was to go into these other realms, and tends to be. So guides like you are very, very invaluable, and we certainly hope to generate more of that through Soullab's future. Let me ask you, in that sense, if you were to say, and I know it could be broad, but what would be your ideal client at this point in terms of the consultancy? Do you have such a thing?
You know, it just happened that in the last few weeks, I have a lot of healers that want to go into corporations. And don't know how to approach that, because they come from the pure healing sense. So this is an ideal client, because I really know corporations on any scale level, from small 10 people businesses up to 65,000 businesses.
Wow.
The other one is really businesses itself, corporation itself, that want to have a different approach to see how they can have a more integral approach to the employee satisfaction, employee health, and also the health of the business in respect to align the vision that they have with the rest of what is needed to be successful. Or persons who are so much into the concepts and don't dare to live their true dream in entrepreneurship, you know, because they say, but then I will be judged. That's not an idea, you know. Empower them more in the fire to allow them to be able to jump. That's some of the work that I'd really love to do as well.
Beautiful. Well, I look forward to where that goes, and I certainly look forward to our work together, of course. And for those of you that have been following Soullab, I'm sure you can see over the past year some extraordinary developments occurring, much of which have been by virtue of Kathrin's support. And those
I only can catalyze what is already there, Kelly. It's
and there's, you know, there's great importance to that. There's great wisdom out in the world, and a lot of people have done the work and have developed things that should be in the world, and they need worldly guides to help bring it out to the world. And I think we need exponential processing on that level, that we need to make it as seamless and as easy as possible to get their good works out into the world. Um, and, you know, it just so happens that mine is creating a field for us to come together, and which I love, because it's a gauntlet for me to go from being very much a hermit and loving it, to
Me too.
being a person that is, you see, to being part of this middle air realm gathering. Like Peter Gabriel, my love, said, we're giving up our islands to save our home. And we know that this is more than self-help, or this is more than a fanciful movement, or you know, all about being self-motivated. This is about an awareness that we're here for a purpose, and that there is something that needs to be done. And together we will make it happen, and we're on time. And it's a beautiful thing. And coming together in this way is just proof positive of that. So I invite all of you to check out Kathrin's site and join us also on Soullab. We have a Facebook called Soullab Come Together private group. And we also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Soullab, which Kathrin is helping me develop and nursing me through that process. And we're building some fantastic things. We have Sunil Shah building this. He's an amazing information scientist, building the platform and building the survey tool in which you refer to. I think it's coming out this week. Is that correct? We should have it
No,
fine-tuned.
it may take, depending on when that goes air, but I would say latest by mid-August.
Okay, good. And I should be out there by late August, so we can all gather. But we have some amazing, and Renu Vor, who's his partner, an amazing designer. You know, when we all come together with a common vision and in service to something greater, beautiful things happen. So join us as we develop this Soullab project and move forward, and support our movement through that, and let us know how we can support your process and what you're moving through in this world. That is the whole point of this, is bringing your beauty forward, bringing your gifts forward, and sharing what you have in a very open source, soulware sort of thing, but also be willing to receive from the elements that complete you, that bring you to a higher level. This is all about something greater than just ourselves. There's a God's between us, if you will. There's something beautiful happening in this. So as we grow and develop and bring more folk like Kathrin to support all of our visions to bring good medicine to the world, you will see this exponential quickening that will bring beautiful things into the world. So thank you all for being a part of this. I'm very excited. This is our second podcast. I think I like doing this. This is, you know, we love talking and about these things that matter. So we'll be talking more. You can find Kathrin through Soullab. It's certainly on her website and through email. And for now, I wish you all a deep, watery connection to Source and finding that inner flow. And I hope that everything in your life is flowing beautifully, and that you find that deep Gaian connection and see that we truly are all one, and that when we allow ourselves to release into something greater, there is a beauty that empowers us and brings us further along the course. So, yeah. Kathrin, I'll leave the last words to you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It is so inspiring. And I'm humbled by the wisdom that you bring to the table, and that we were hopefully able to share a little bit of the perspective during this last hour in that podcast. It's really this generative field that for me is the future, and is this access of wisdom that is there and not being blocked by some thoughts of fears of income and socially not accepted. It's always with whom you are surrounding yourself that shows you to what degree you're able to. And I hope that our partnership that we are going into inspires a lot of other people that are listening to that now or in the future to really seek out and deep dive into communities that are supporting your dreams. I think that's one of the first steps that will allow you to be really diving into the water, because you know you're not alone, and you know you're not insane, and you know there is a way through. And those are all good questions to know that they are safe when you are deep dive into water. And if there is anything that I can do, I love to be the light tower on the safe ground on earth, to let you shine. That we know you're there, and we also know that it is important that you go yourself through that struggle, whatever that struggle might be at the very moment. So in that sense, take deep breaths, connect to your heart, and know that you have all the resources within you. And if needed, there are people such as Kelly, such as myself, and such as tons of other healers that are around Soullab that can support you. That's what we're here for. That's our big mission. And that's what we strive to make for you available in the nearest future. So, blessings to everyone.
What a beautiful world. Thank you, Kathrin. Thank all of you for joining us and this initiation into the water. And we'll see you back on Soullab. And thank you for all your participation and all your being a part of this. It's we're coming together and we're on time. Take care.